Ambassador Veldar shuffled through the thick stack of papers on his desk, his 4 eyes scanning each page with growing amusement. The other members of the Galactic Council sat around the massive circular table, their various forms creating an impressive display of alien diversity. Some looked like giant insects, others resembled walking trees, and a few appeared to be made entirely of glowing crystals. Fellow council members, Veldar announced, his voice echoing through the Grand Chamber, we are here today to discuss Earth's application to join our Advanced Civilization Club. He held up a particular document that seemed to be causing him great entertainment. However, I must say these humans have provided us with some rather creative documentation. The council members leaned forward with interest. It had been months since they had received an application from a new planet, and Earth had been on their radar for some time. The humans seemed promising enough, they had developed basic space travel and showed signs of scientific advancement. But there was always the question of whether they were truly ready for galactic society. Counselor Nex, whose body appeared to be carved from black stone, rumbled his response. What seems to be the issue, Veldar? Are their technological capabilities insufficient? Oh no, their technology is adequate, Veldar replied, waving one of his long, thin arms. The problem is with their cultural documentation. Listen to this claim they have made about their recreational activities. He cleared his throat dramatically. Humans engage in something they call alligator wrestling as a form of entertainment. A series of clicks, hisses, and electronic sounds filled the chamber as the various species expressed their amusement. The translation devices worked overtime to convert these sounds into understandable responses for each delegate. Alligator wrestling? Asked Teresis, the serpentine representative whose scales shimmered with confusion. What exactly is an alligator? Veldar consulted his notes. According to their files, alligators are large reptilian predators with powerful jaws capable of crushing bone. They live in water and can grow up to 14 feet in length. The chamber fell silent for a moment as this information sank in. Then gradually, the sounds of alien laughter began to fill the space once again. They expect us to believe, said Kresh, a warrior from the Iron Dominion whose voice sounded like grinding metal, that they wrestle creatures designed by evolution to kill and eat them? For fun. It gets better, Veldar continued, clearly enjoying himself. They also claim to participate in an activity called shark diving, where they deliberately enter the habitat of what they describe as perfect killing machines without any protective equipment. Commander Zephyr of the Wind Runners fluttered her translucent wings in disbelief. Surely they mean they observe these creatures from a safe distance using advanced technology? No, Veldar shook his head, his antenna twitching with mirth. According to their documentation, they swim directly alongside these sharks, wearing only thin fabric coverings. Some humans even claim to touch these predators voluntarily. The council erupted into chaos as delegates expressed their disbelief in dozens of different ways. The hive mind representative began humming in frequencies that indicated severe skepticism, while the Crystal Federation's delegate changed colors rapidly, cycling through what their species considered the visual equivalent of laughter. This is clearly a psychological warfare tactic, declared Admiral Quarks, whose cybernetic enhancements glowed red with analysis mode. They are attempting to intimidate potential enemies by creating fictional accounts of suicidal bravery. I agree, said the representative from the Peaceful Gardens Collective, her flower-like head nodding vigorously. No intelligent species would voluntarily place themselves in mortal danger for entertainment. It goes against every survival instinct we understand. Veldar continued reading from the human documents. There are also claims about something called extreme sports where humans throw themselves from great heights attached only to elastic cords, or slide down mountains on narrow planks at high speeds. Preposterous, muttered Counselor Nex. Their bone structure is far too fragile for such activities. We have analyzed their physiology, they lack natural armor, possess no venomous capabilities, and their reaction times are inferior to most predatory species. Perhaps, suggested the Aquatic Union's representative, whose gills fluttered thoughtfully, this is their way of compensating for obvious physical inadequacies. They create elaborate fiction to appear more formidable than they actually are. The discussion continued for hours, with each delegate contributing their own analysis of human psychology. The consensus was clear, humans were obviously lying about their recreational activities. It was impossible for such a physically weak species to engage apex predators and survive, let alone enjoy the experience. I motion that we deny Earth's application for advanced civilization status, announced Veldar finally. Until they can provide credible evidence of their claims, We cannot trust their documentation. Seconded, called out multiple voices simultaneously. However, Veldar added, raising one clawed hand, I propose that we investigate these claims personally before filing our final rejection. It would be proper diplomatic protocol to give them a chance to prove their statements, no matter how ridiculous they seem. The council agreed, though most members considered it a formality. No species in galactic history had ever voluntarily engaged apex predators without advanced weaponry. The idea that humans did so for entertainment was simply too absurd to believe. As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the chamber, quiet conversations could be heard throughout the corridors. The humans had certainly provided entertainment with their creative fiction, but it was clear they were not ready for the responsibilities that came with galactic citizenship. Veldar gathered his papers and prepared for what he assumed would be a brief trip to Earth to expose their obvious fabrications. He had no idea that within days, everything the Galactic Council believed about survival instincts and rational behavior would be completely overturned. 3 weeks later, Veldar's sleek silver transport ship descended through the thick white clouds surrounding Earth. He looked out the viewing port with curiosity, watching the blue and green planet grow larger beneath them. Beside him sat Kresh, the military observer from the Iron Dominion, whose metal-plated body clinked softly with each movement. On his other side, HFY from the Coral Federation kept changing colors, her scales shifting from blue to purple as she processed the new environment. Remember, Veldar said as their ship touched down in what humans called Florida, we are here to expose their obvious lies quickly and efficiently. No rational species engages deadly predators for entertainment. The landing pad was surrounded by strange green plants that seemed to grow everywhere. The air felt thick and humid compared to their controlled ship environment. Veldar's breathing apparatus worked harder to process the oxygen-rich atmosphere as they stepped onto the platform. A human female approached them with a wide smile that showed many white teeth. Kresh instinctively reached for his weapon before remembering that tooth displays might be friendly gestures among humans rather than threat warnings. Welcome to Earth, the woman said cheerfully. I'm Dr. Emma Thompson, your liaison officer. This is my colleague, Dr. Michael Roberts. She gestured to a tall human male carrying what appeared to be primitive recording equipment. Veldar noticed that both humans seemed remarkably calm for beings meeting alien life forms for the first time. Most species showed some signs of nervousness during first contact, but these two acted as if entertaining galactic visitors was routine. We understand you want to verify our recreational activities, Emma continued, her voice filled with what seemed like genuine excitement. Perfect timing. We're heading to the Everglades Research Station today to meet with some of our wildlife specialists. The aliens exchanged glances. HFY's scales shifted to a worried yellow pattern. Research station? She asked. We expected laboratory environments or simulation chambers. Oh no, Michael laughed, a sound that made all three aliens step back slightly. We do our best research in the field, working directly with the animals in their natural habitat. An hour later, their transport vehicle stopped beside a dark waterway that stretched as far as their enhanced vision could see. The water looked murky and still, with strange plants growing along the edges. Veldar's threat detection sensors immediately began beeping warnings about multiple large life forms moving beneath the surface. This is perfect alligator habitat, Emma announced happily, as if this was good news rather than a dangerous situation. A human male emerged from a small building nearby, wearing nothing but thin fabric coverings and rubber boots that came up to his knees. His name was Tom Williams, and he seemed completely unconcerned about the threatening beeps coming from the alien detection equipment. Morning, folks, Tom said casually. Ready to meet some of our local residents? Before any of the aliens could object, Tom walked directly into the dark water. Veldar's 4 eyes widened in horror as the human waded deeper, the murky liquid rising to his waist. The threat sensors now screamed continuous warnings about massive predators closing in on the defenseless human. This is suicide, Kresh whispered, his battle-trained instincts telling him to retreat to a safe distance. That creature will kill him within seconds. What creature? Gaius asked, her scales now flashing rapid patterns of panic. Their question was answered immediately. A massive shape moved through the water toward Tom, creating a wake that showed its enormous size. As it approached, they could see a long snout filled with razor-sharp teeth, followed by a body that seemed to go on forever. The creature was easily 12 feet long and looked like it could snap a human in half without effort. Hey there, Betty, Tom said calmly as if greeting an old friend. How are you doing today, girl? The enormous alligator, which Tom had called Betty, swam directly up to him and stopped just inches away. Her massive jaws could have closed around his entire torso, but instead she remained still while Tom reached into a bag and pulled out what appeared to be raw meat. "Betty here has been part of our breeding program for 8 years, Tom explained conversationally, while hand-feeding chunks of meat to a creature that could easily kill him. "She's actually quite gentle once you understand her behavior patterns." Veldar's translator began emitting static as it struggled to process his species' equivalent of complete disbelief. His breathing apparatus made strange wheezing sounds as his body tried to cope with what he was witnessing. The alligator took the meat gently from Tom's hand, her massive teeth carefully avoiding his fingers. She then floated beside him peacefully while he continued talking about breeding cycles and territorial behaviors, as if conducting a casual conversation rather than risking his life with an apex predator. "This is impossible," Kresh stated, his voice shaking for the first time in his military career. "That predator could sever his body with one movement. Why does it not attack?" Emma's smile grew even wider, which the aliens were beginning to recognize as a warning sign. "Oh, this is nothing compared to what we have planned next. Tom, should we show them the Australian footage?" Tom grinned while still standing waist-deep in water next to a creature that could kill him instantly. "Absolutely. Wait until they see the crocodile wrestlers. Those guys work with animals twice Betty's size." HFY made a sound that her species used to indicate approaching unconsciousness. Kresh began calculating retreat routes back to their ship. Veldar simply stared at the impossible scene before him, watching a fragile human casually interacting with a perfect killing machine as if it were a domestic pet. "I think," Veldar said slowly, "we may need to revise our understanding of human psychology." The investigation was just beginning, and already everything the Galactic Council believed about rational behavior was crumbling around them. The research facility's viewing room felt like a trap as Dr. Emma Thompson led the 3 increasingly nervous aliens inside. The walls were lined with screens and computers, and Emma moved between them with practiced ease, loading files that would forever change how the galaxy viewed humanity. "Please, sit wherever you're comfortable," Emma said cheerfully, gesturing to chairs that had been specially designed for different alien body types. Veldar perched on a tall stool that accommodated his long legs, while Kresh remained standing, his metal armor clanking softly. Oasis coiled her serpentine body around a specially designed platform, her scales now a nervous shade of green. "Now," Emma continued, her fingers dancing across a keyboard, "you've seen Tom working with Betty, which is fairly standard conservation work. But I thought you might be interested in seeing how this kind of human-animal interaction developed historically." The main screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be an educational program. A human male appeared on screen, speaking enthusiastically to an audience while standing next to what looked like a small crocodile. "This is footage from about 30 years ago," Michael Roberts explained, settling into a chair beside the viewing screen. "The man you're seeing is Steve Irwin, one of our most famous wildlife educators." The aliens watched with mild interest as this Steve Irwin person talked about crocodile behavior and conservation efforts. It seemed reasonable enough, educational content delivered from a safe distance. Veldar began to relax, thinking perhaps the earlier incident with Tom had been an isolated case of human recklessness. Then Steve Irwin jumped on the crocodile. The viewing room erupted in alien panic sounds. Veldar's 4 eyes bulged as he watched the human deliberately grab a massive reptile with his bare hands, wrapping his arms around its body while it thrashed violently. The creature was easily 3 times his size and possessed jaws that could crush bone, yet the human held on tightly while explaining crocodile anatomy to his television audience. "This cannot be real," Devs gasped, her scales cycling rapidly through colors that indicated severe distress. "Surely this is computer-generated imagery for entertainment purposes?" "Oh no," Emma replied happily, "this is completely authentic documentary footage." Steve was famous for his hands-on approach to wildlife education. Very popular television program actually. On the screen, Steve Irwin had successfully subdued the enormous crocodile and was now holding its jaws closed with his bare hands while discussing the importance of reptile conservation. The creature could have killed him in seconds, yet he treated it like a slightly difficult household pet. Kresh's metal plating began to rattle as his body's defense mechanisms activated. Where are his weapons? His protective armor? His backup support team? "He didn't use any," Michael explained casually. Steve believed in connecting with animals directly, without barriers or artificial protection. Made for much better educational content that way. Veldar made a sound that his translator couldn't process as Emma loaded the next video file. This time the screen showed a human male sitting peacefully in a forest clearing while enormous brown bears wandered around him. The creatures were massive, easily 9 feet tall when standing upright, with claws like knives and the muscle mass to kill most galactic species with a single swipe. "This is Timothy Treadwell," Emma narrated as they watched the human reach out to touch one of the massive predators. "He spent 13 summers living among wild grizzly bears in Alaska. No weapons, no protection, just camping equipment and a camera." The aliens watched in horrified fascination as Timothy spoke to the bears like old friends, giving them individual names and discussing their personalities. One particularly large bear approached him closely enough that Timothy could have reached out and touched its nose. Instead of retreating or showing fear, the human remained perfectly calm, even smiling. "Living among them?" Veldar's voice cracked. "For months at a time?" "Oh yes," Michael nodded. Timothy was very passionate about bear conservation. He believed the best way to protect them was to study their behavior up close and share that knowledge with the world. OSS made a keening sound that indicated her species was approaching mental overload. "But surely they killed him eventually? No creature tolerates such intrusion in their territory indefinitely?" Emma's expression grew slightly sad. "Well, yes, Timothy was eventually killed by a bear. But not until after 13 successful seasons. Most remarkable safety record, really, considering he was living with apex predators without any protection whatsoever." Before the aliens could fully process this information, Emma had loaded another video file. This one showed humans underwater, swimming in deep blue water that seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. Dark shapes moved in the distance, growing larger as they approached. "And here we have free diving with great white sharks," Emma announced as if discussing a pleasant hobby rather than voluntary suicide. The screen filled with images of massive sharks, some longer than the humans swimming near them. These were perfect killing machines, evolved over millions of years to hunt and kill in the ocean's depths. Their black eyes showed an intelligence that spoke of countless successful hunts, and their rows of razor-sharp teeth could slice through almost anything. Yet the humans swam directly toward them. "No cages," Michael pointed out helpfully. "No weapons, no protective gear. Just humans and sharks sharing the same water space." The aliens watched a human woman named Lucy Edwards floating motionless as a 16-foot great white shark glided past her, so close that its rough skin nearly brushed against her body. Instead of fleeing in terror, Lucy slowly reached out and gently touched the shark's dorsal fin. Veldar's breathing apparatus gave up entirely and began emitting only electronic screams. His translator started producing random sounds as it attempted to process thoughts that no Scythian had ever needed to express before. "Why?" was all Kresh could manage to say. "For the experience," Emma replied simply. "And the footage makes excellent educational material about shark behavior and conservation." The emergency communication beacon in Veldar's ship had never been used for anything more serious than a minor technical malfunction. Now it blazed red against the evening sky as he transmitted the most important message of his diplomatic career. His 3 hands shook as he adjusted the controls, while Kresh paced behind him and Tejas remained coiled in a corner, her scales still cycling through distressed color patterns. "Priority Alpha message to Galactic Council." Veldar spoke into the transmitter, his voice barely controlled. "This is Ambassador Veldar reporting from Earth with urgent findings regarding human civilization assessment." The response came within minutes. Supreme Counselor Thane's ancient voice crackled through the speakers, filled with irritation at being disturbed during her rest cycle. "This better be important, Veldar. You were supposed to conduct a simple verification of obviously false claims." "Counselor," Veldar began, then stopped to collect himself. "The claims were not false. Humans do indeed wrestle apex predators. We have witnessed it personally and reviewed extensive documentation proving these activities are widespread and ongoing." Static filled the communication channel for several long moments. When Thane spoke again, her voice had changed completely. "Repeat your last statement, Ambassador." "Humans engage deadly predators as recreational and educational activities," Veldar said clearly. "They swim with creatures designed to kill them. They live among animals that could tear them apart. They do this voluntarily, regularly, and they consider it normal behavior." The communication channel exploded with sound as emergency protocols activated across the Galactic Council. Warning alarms began blaring in council chambers 40 light-years away. Within minutes, voices from dozens of species filled the channel, all speaking at once in languages that the translators struggled to keep up with. "Impossible," boomed Counselor Nex, his rock-like voice grinding with disbelief. "No species survives by courting death for entertainment. We have video evidence, Kresh interrupted, his military training taking over. Humans have been documenting these activities for decades. Thousands of individuals participate in what they call extreme sports and wildlife conservation. Admiral Corks's voice cut through the chaos with mechanical precision. If these claims are verified, we need immediate strategic reassessment. Any species that treats mortal combat as recreation poses an unknown threat level. Dr. Thompson, who had been quietly listening to the alien communication from her monitoring station, turned to Michael with a puzzled expression. Are they talking about Steve Irwin again? Because I've got hours more footage if they're interested. Back on the ship, the communication channels were overwhelmed as news of the human revelation spread throughout the galactic network. Emergency sessions were being called in dozens of star systems. Military commanders who had dismissed Earth as a minor backwater world were suddenly requesting full threat assessments. Let me understand this correctly, came the voice of General Vex from the Outer Rim Defense Force. Humans voluntarily enter combat situations with their planet's apex predators without technological enhancement? Affirmative, Dizis replied, finally finding her voice. We observed a human named Tom Williams hand-feeding a 12-foot alligator while standing in its natural habitat. He showed no fear and treated the encounter as routine work. And the other activities you mentioned? This was Commander Zara from the Nebula Patrol, her voice tight with concern. Veldar consulted his notes with trembling hands. Swimming with great white sharks, wrestling crocodiles, living among bears, diving from extreme heights, racing at dangerous speeds. All documented as popular recreational activities. The implications rippled through military networks at light speed. Species that had spent centuries developing advanced weapons and protective technologies to deal with their own planet's dangers were learning about humans who faced similar threats with nothing but confidence and basic tools. Request immediate reclassification of Sol System, Admiral Corks announced. Moving from harmless backwater to approach with extreme caution, pending further analysis. On Earth, Dr. Thompson received the first of what would become hundreds of communication requests from alien governments. Her computer screen filled with messages from species requesting detailed psychological profiles of human risk assessment capabilities. Michael, she called across the lab, I'm getting requests for consultations on something called Apex Predator Interaction Protocols. Do you know what they're talking about? Michael looked up from his own computer, which was displaying similar messages. I think they want to know how we swim with sharks without getting eaten. There's a request here from the Warrior Guild asking for training seminars on human fearlessness techniques. Meanwhile, the Galactic Communication Network buzzed with increasingly frantic discussions. Species that had ruled out Earth as a potential ally were suddenly reconsidering their positions. If humans could face their own planet's deadliest creatures as a form of entertainment, what would they be capable of in actual combat situations? The psychological implications are staggering, transmitted Dr. Cleth, the galaxy's leading expert on interspecies behavior patterns. Most species develop elaborate avoidance strategies for apex predators. Humans appear to have developed engagement strategies instead. Fleet movements began across dozens of star systems as military leaders quietly repositioned their forces. No one wanted to be caught unprepared if humanity decided to expand beyond their solar system with the same casual confidence they showed when wrestling alligators. Veldar closed the communication channel and slumped in his chair, exhausted by the galaxy-wide panic he had inadvertently triggered. Through the ship's viewing port, he could see Tom Williams walking back from the swamp, carrying his equipment and humming quietly to himself, completely unaware that his afternoon's work had just caused the largest military alert in galactic history. I think, Veldar said quietly to his companions, we may have underestimated this species somewhat. Outside, night was falling on Earth, and somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sounds of humans engaging in what they called their evening recreational activities. 6 months after Veldar's shocking report, the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had been transformed into something resembling a fortress. Security forces from 12 different species lined the walls, their weapons powered and ready. Not because of any external threat, but because the Council was about to make the most unprecedented decision in galactic history. Supreme Counselor Thane called the session to order with a voice that carried across the massive chamber. Her ancient form, supported by crystalline enhancements, seemed to glow with the weight of the moment. We are gathered today to vote on Earth's revised application for advanced civilization status. The atmosphere in the chamber was electric with tension. What had begun as a routine rejection of an obviously fabricated application had evolved into the most debated topic in galactic politics. Every major news network across 47 star systems was broadcasting live coverage of the proceedings. The evidence presented by Ambassador Veldar has been verified by independent investigation teams from 6 different species, Thane continued. All reports confirm that humans do indeed engage apex predators as recreational and educational activities. Counselor next shifted his massive stone form, creating small earthquakes in his section of the chamber. The psychological profiles are unlike anything in our databases. Humans appear to view mortal danger as a form of entertainment. Admiral Cork stood, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the chamber lights. Military analysis confirms that any species capable of treating combat with apex predators as sport represents a significant strategic asset. I recommend immediate acceptance and alliance offers. The vote, when it came, was the fastest unanimous decision in Council history. Earth's application wasn't just approved, it was fast-tracked through every level of galactic bureaucracy with emergency protocols typically reserved for existential threats. Motion passes, Thane announced. Humanity is hereby granted full membership status with immediate induction into the Galactic Defense Alliance. On Earth, Dr. Emma Thompson stood in her laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing representatives from dozens of alien civilizations. Each display showed a different species, and each species was making essentially the same request. Let me understand this correctly, Emma said, addressing a particularly nervous-looking delegate from the Peaceful Gardens Collective. You want to hire humans to teach your military forces about confidence in dangerous situations? Precisely, the flower-like alien replied, his petals quivering. Our warriors freeze when faced with apex predators. Your species appears to have developed natural resistance to fear responses. Another display activated, showing a crystalline being from the Hive Mind Confederation. We offer significant compensation for detailed studies of human psychological conditioning methods. How do you train your young to approach deadly creatures without panic? Emma looked around at her colleagues who were fielding similar requests from their own holographic displays. Tom Williams had been pulled away from his swamp research to speak with 3 different alien military academies about hands-on predator management techniques. The thing is, Emma said carefully, we don't really train for this. It's just something humans do naturally. The holographic aliens began making sounds of distress in their various languages. The concept that humans didn't require special training to wrestle dangerous animals was somehow more terrifying than the wrestling itself. Dr. Michael Roberts looked up from his computer screen, which was displaying what appeared to be a contract written in 17 different alien languages. Emma, I'm looking at an offer from the Warfleet Dominion. They want to hire a human consultant to teach their elite troops about apex predator interaction protocols for the equivalent of, well, let's just say we could buy our own planet with this much money. What exactly would we be teaching them? Emma asked. According to this contract, basic human confidence techniques, threat assessment methods, and something they're calling recreational danger management. Michael paused, reading further. They specifically mention wanting to understand how humans maintain calm psychological states while in physical contact with creatures designed by evolution to kill them. Across the galaxy, military academies were frantically developing new curriculum based on human behavior patterns. The prestigious Warrior Academy of the Iron Dominion had created an entire new department dedicated to human-style combat psychology, though they had unanimously agreed that actually wrestling real predators would remain theoretical coursework only. The news networks were having a field day with the story. Tonight on Galactic News, announced reporter ZYX of the Information Guild, we examine how one small blue planet has revolutionized military thinking across 47 star systems. Coming up after the break, we'll speak with General Vorth about why his elite troops are now required to watch something called Crocodile Hunter as part of their basic training. In the Galactic Council chambers, workers had installed a new inscription on the quantum steel walls. Written in 47 different languages, it served as a permanent reminder of the most important lesson in galactic diplomatic history. Veldar stood before the inscription during the closing ceremony, reading it aloud as Earth's official representatives looked on with bemused expressions. When humans claim they wrestle their planet's apex predators, believe them. When they say it's recreational, fear them appropriately. Tom Williams, still wearing his mud-stained work clothes from that morning's alligator research, raised his hand tentatively. So, does this mean people want to pay us money because we're not scared of dangerous animals? Apparently so, Emma replied, watching as another contract offer appeared on her screen. This one was from a species requesting human advisors for what they termed extreme habitat colonization projects. The irony was not lost on anyone present. Humans had applied to join galactic civilization expecting to learn from more advanced species. Instead, the galaxy was asking to learn from them. Their weekend hobbies had somehow qualified as advanced military training techniques. As the ceremony concluded and the various alien representatives began making their way home, the galaxy had gained a new member and a new understanding of what courage looked like. Meanwhile, humans had discovered that their casual approach to dangerous wildlife was apparently worth its weight in precious metals. It was, everyone agreed, an arrangement that would benefit both sides tremendously.